Hello and thank you for coming to check this out. So here is our 10th After Effects logo reproduction using Apple Motion 5. And you can see here is the original animation. It's from the motion graphics artist using the name MonsieurCat. There's a link in the description. You can check out the original work over at the Envato market at the designer's product page. Generally, for this one, side by side doesn't look too bad, but this is probably one of the least accurate reproductions that we've done so far. But I chose this one specifically to work out how to do this transforming shape that runs all the way through the graphic, comes out to form the search box, and then transforms again to form the logo base. So we will head over to the project file and go through the elements step by step, and we'll pay close attention to the transforming shape. And also we'll have a closer look at how these outlines are done around the first animation of the shape. And I'm actually going to post a separate guide looking a little further into animating border paths. Alrighty, so let's head over to the project file. Here we are in the project file, and this is ready for you to download now, so you can grab it from the link in the description. So you can see there's a lot going on. We're going to start here in the search box groups. So you'll see we've got the little magnifying glass icon animation. We've got these outlines, and we'll go into these in more detail later. We've got the main shape here. So this is just a motion shape. It's a rounded rectangle. You'll see that this is all animated just by animating the roundness, geometric width and height, and over here in properties, the Y position and the Z rotation. And note that there's no animation of the scale at all. So we've animated the perception of scale entirely by adjusting the width and height. And we'll see why that's the best way to go soon. So this box, oh yeah, all of these keyframes here, these aren't necessary. That's just because I reproduce things just by eye, pretty much. I don't know the original designer's timing or curves. I pretty much just go through almost frame by frame to try and line it up as accurately as possible. So the shape animates in, adjusting the width adjusts slightly slower than the height, and that gives us this style. And then the width right about here speeds up and expands out into shape. Slight rotation going on there to sort of bounce in, and then at this stage it's going to dip on the y-axis, rotate slightly, and then rotate back the other way as the height and width change again to form the rounded rectangle. So I'll just turn these groups off and we'll have a look at these two samples here. So this shape is animated by, is this one done by, okay, this one's animated by scale and roundness, I think, as well. Yep. And this shape down here is animated just by the width and height. So what you're going to see is that when we animate just by width and height, we get a more consistent shape with this one than we do with the one up the top. The one up the top, because we're animating with scale, at the ends there, there's a distortion and skewing until the Y axis reaches 100%. and so the roundness is uneven all through the animation. And if I reset that roundness and just set it to 30 for the animation, you'll see it doesn't help things at all. So that's why if we're going to animate a transforming shape like this, better to use the height and width parameters to reflect size and scale than just using scale itself. So back in the layers here. So the next object that comes in, let's look at the text. So here's our text. I just have very simple type on sequence text, which I think is exactly the same style as the reference animation. For the little search box, there's a bit more going on there. So in this group here, icon, so we have this magnifying glass. It's just made from a circle with an outline and a handle put together inside this group, and the group is animated for scale and Z rotation, and it's paired up with this circle that is animated for scale. And running underneath, we've got that accent, which is drawing in and out, and that is made just with this outline shape here. It's just a Bezier line, animated first point offset, last point offset, to draw in and draw out again. So then the next item is these running border lines. So these are here. It's a duplicate of this shape. I've padded out the size a little bit on the X and Y. And these lines are animated to draw on and off using the write-on behavior. We'll jump over here to this project file to have a closer look at how those borders are animated. So this is a project file from another guide I'm about to post about animating paths with the write-on behavior. And I use this method in that logo reproduction to do those borders. So we'll have a look at this one here, and I'll just turn these guys off. So if we open up the group, you'll see that there is this path here, and there's a clone that's making the other side. So we have this path. It's just a rectangle shape, 400 by 400, rounded to 30, and there's a write-on behavior applied. And this write-on behavior is animating like this, drawing in and drawing out, and that's done by keyframing the stroke length. And there's lots of different ways that you can do it. In this case, I've animated it from 100 down to 0. You could have it go from 0 up and down, back down to 0. There's so many things you can do. But this is basically the method that I use to animate the border paths for the logo reproduction. And the other key thing to note is that the custom speed is on, and you get that from this speed menu here. So when we activate the custom setting and custom speed, that means that we can adjust the speed curve how we like, and you need to do this if you want to be able to have lots of different variations for the way this path will animate. And you can see that there's just a few examples of what you can do when you take advantage of these write-on behavior parameters. I'll post that guide for using the write-on behavior, and I'll put a link in the description for this if you want to check that out. So let's carry on with what happens next. the pointer. So there's a few different ways that the pointer animation can be done. We've got motion path that we can use. We could animate by position. But for pointers, what I like to do is take advantage of the group anchor point and the shape anchor point. So here the point is just a motion shape, and you'll see the anchor point's at the tip. So I can rotate around this point. But then I can take advantage of the second anchor point for the group itself, which is up here. So I can use the group anchor point to animate in, to swing in on this arc. And at the same time, the motion shape itself is pivoting around its own anchor point, which you can see here. So we have the shape rotation happening, and we also have the group rotation happening. And I think on the shape also there is a slight adjustment on the X position as it comes into, and I did that just to line it up with the source graphic. So then the next thing is the click action, and you'll see that the motion shape, the pointer, pumps in for scale and back out again. And of course, with the anchor point of the motion shape right there, it's going to scale in toward that point. So we take advantage of that anchor point being there again. You can see here's the scale keyframing here. So it just pumps in and out, which sets off the animation, the second animation for the magnifying glass icon. If we head back to that group, you can see that the circle is just pumping up by 10% over 4 frames, I think, and then out down to 0 on scale for the next 8 frames. And 1 frame later it's joined by the, no, what's happening here? Right, the magnifying glass group goes first. The magnifying glass group pumps over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 frames, up 10% and then out. And then the circle, just manually keyframing the scale. The circle follows the same pump, but just 1 frame later. And that triggers also the shape burst. We'll look at that shortly. So the mouse pointer will continue on its way out. And for this animation, I just lined it up using the X and Y. I could have added one of motion shape there with geometry for a path, but this was simple enough to do. So then we have the shape burst, and we've covered this many times in other reproductions, but we'll have a quick look at it. You'll find it here in this group, icon burst. Here's the source for the replicator. The replicator is making the shape. Here is the source, it's this line, and we can see that the line is animated for the first point offset and last point offset to draw in and then draw out, and then we replicate that. Note that the line source anchor point is down here at the bottom. So in the replicator, when we adjust, we have it, the replicator is a circle set to outline just 4 points, and we have a line angle checked on, and so that means we can spin the shapes around the anchor point. Remember, the anchor point's at the bottom, so they're twisting around 180 degrees to the other side. So when you want to make a shape burst, just remember you want the anchor point of the source shape to always be at the bottom, so that in the replicator you can adjust the angle, and the angle will pivot around to the other side instead of pivoting from the center. So it pushes them from a central position outwards like that when they write off. Right, so that is the shape burst. And then we have next this group here, the streaking lines. Okay, so these lines are animated in the same way as the replicator, the shape burst source. Let's grab one. We'll grab line 1 white. Here's the line, and you can see that it is animated by first point, last point offset to draw in and draw out again, but also there's an animation on the y-axis for the shape, which is raising it up as well. And for the other shapes, I've either duplicated and adjusted the length, or I have cloned them if they are the same size. So you'll see a few clones in there as well. So then we have, right, this background shape. This is one thing that I could not get really close to the source graphic. If I had more time to spend on this, I could probably get it looking better. But I just used this circle here. It's animating across on the X, and it's keyframed for Y scale, so it expands out, comes in thinner, and goes out more full. And the shape itself is just a circle. Yeah, I've just used the circle shape and squashed it using scale and keyframe scale. So the logo, right. So for the logo group, the original transforming shape here, this now is used also as the image mask source to clip out the features of the logo. So we have this logo group here. Note that the logo graphics and the background, this introducing shape here, these are all sitting in a group. The group's rotation is linked to the shape's rotation, so it's going to animate in following the same tangents. So we have this background, this kind of introduction shape that comes in, and it's masked out by the transforming shape. Then the first pass of the logo, which again is masked out by the transforming shape, and then the second path of the logo, which rather than use overshoot, I just added a slight bounce back by keyframing the X. Then we have the tagline, and the tagline, I just have an overshoot on the text object itself. It's overshooting the Z position of the text, and it's fading in with a fade in behavior as well. So that is just an overshoot on the text element itself. It's not an overshoot behavior applied to sequence text at all. It's not needed for this. And then we have the confetti. And this was another thing that I couldn't really get as accurate as the source animation. I could place each shape onto a replicator and push it out by animating the circumference. I could do it that way and match up each shape. That would be easy enough. But I don't think that's how it would have been done in the source. I think that's it's a shape emitter kind of thing. So I've used emitters. There's one for the left, one for the right. There's a link in the description if you want to check out how to make emitters that do this shape confetti kind of thing. And those groups are all in here. One emitter for the left, one emitter for the right, and these are the shape sources. Okay, so that's that for this reproduction. Thanks for coming to check it out. The project file is there for you to download if you want to dig in, and thanks for watching.